everyone, my name is Siti Nurjalila binti Rosliza Akmal, and I'm going to give you a speech about what can we learn from people who are different from us. So, without further ado, let's get started. Does anyone remember the feeling of walking into a group of people and not knowing where to go? You might have been all alone, or perhaps more likely be with a group of people that reminded you of yourself. Even today, when deciding where to sit, how many of us choose to sit next to someone who looked or felt different from us? I would bet not many of us did that. I guess not many changes from such situations, whether you're 17 or 70. We've all felt this tendency to gravitate toward people who look, think, or act like us. It is comfortable, but it also can be harmful. Because of this polarization that we face today isn't just about believing that the other side is factually wrong. We are beginning to see the other as malevolent beings with a hateful and hidden agendas. For example, we can see it from a hate group that violently attacks people who look different from them. Growing up, I'm also scared as I soon going to be an adult. But there's something I found from having a conversation with my friends that I think can be a path forward from all of this. An approach that focuses on the conversation with the intent of listen and learn, not to win or not to agree. I remember I used to be a hardcore fangirl of a K-pop group, and there were people of color that felt offended by my favorite K-pop group for being a colorist. I knew that the group meant no harm and just wanted to tease the other member, so I decided to back them up. Of course, I did not understand what they were feeling back then, because colorization was so normalized in our society. As I got older, I realized that my perspective was inherited. And this is when I started to not win in any debate and just start listening. And in the months that followed, I took it upon myself to learn more. Slowly, the way I think changed, but it can only happen because I engage with people who have different perspectives. I started being more liberal in any conversation, and it is best for me to stay neutral. I actually remember this one conversation on Twitter about sexual assault. They were debating about whether it's the girl or the guy's fault. I was afraid that their conversation would turn into an argument, but surprisingly, it did not. I learned that the girl was sexually assaulted before, and the guy came from a family with a conservative thinking that men is superior than women. Later on, I was surprised because although they still did not agree with each other, they seemed to respect each other's perspective, and they did learn something from each other that they didn't know before. So I realized that we should not back away from discussing polarizing issues, even if it's with people who disagree with us. Yes, it's uncomfortable, and I agree, most of the time we don't change our minds. But we can understand the other person's perspective before, and it helps us advocate for our own belief, or even allow us to reach a compromise when the situation demands it. Still, the question remains, how can we create a space for this kind of discourse? I think the first step is finding a community, whether it's a fan club, a group of friends, or whomever you may feel comfortable having a conversation with. When we are able to recognize what unites us, it becomes so much easier to create a conversation about what divides us. Whatever the group is, try having a conversation at least once a week. But what exactly mean by uncomfortable? Well, it's up to you to decide, whether it's about politics, religion, identity, or something else. Whatever the topic may be, just talk about something that is uncomfortable, unconventional, and of course, it should be meaningful to you. Most importantly, do it with the intent to listen and learn, not to win or not to agree. Another thing is, make sure to stay off your phone. I know how addicting social medias can be, but by discussing polarizing issues online, you will lose one-on-one connection that really humanizes different perspectives that allows us to see and empathize with one another. Because by having this conversation, you will gain insight into people who think differently. Well, who knows, you might convince someone of a belief that you hold dearly, or you reconsider again your own viewpoint. It is very scary to discuss polarizing issues with people who are not agreeing with us. That is why I urge to demand action from all of you, because polarization issues is important to create a better community. Before I end my speech, this time, I want to ask you, would you sit next to someone who looked different from you at any social event? That is all from me. Thank you for having me. Assalamualaikum.